Hello and welcome to the British Bible School Something to Think About. My name is Mark Hill and it's a privilege to be able to share this time with you. Thank you for supporting our work if you do, and thank you for tuning in. If you enjoy these messages, please do subscribe so that you know when other messages are being put up, and also to be able to find our teaching lessons as well. Something that I've been thinking about due to a trip that I recently made and what I witnessed on that trip is the idea of hospitality. According to Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia and the free dictionary that you can find online, it says hospitality is about people welcoming other people into their homes or other places where they work or spend their time. People who welcome visitors are called hosts. The people they welcome are called guests. It goes on to say that the word hospitality comes from the Latin hospes. There are other definitions along that same line that are found also from the Latin, but they all seem to express the same idea. It's from this word that the word hostis comes from. Hospitality is all about the art of entertaining or receiving guests these days. If you do a search on Google for hospitality, you will find it talks all about how hotels can be hospitable to their guests, how they can have the front desk managed at all times so they can respond to their guests' needs, how they can excel in offering hospitality and hopefully be able to charge greater prices for doing so. Well, that wasn't the original intent of hospitality. You see, it might seem a strange idea to us today, but years and years and years ago when people travelled around, they didn't necessarily have the option of booking into a hotel or, as we do these days, an Airbnb, which is probably getting a little bit closer to the idea as it was originally meant. But people as they travelled would be travelling light, no doubt, if they're having to walk great distances, and they would arrive and need a place to stay and have something to eat. So people would be encouraged to open their homes to them. Now, this is something especially that we find in Christianity and in the Bible's teachings. We know that people are asked to offer hospitality to those who come amongst them, especially those teachers who are going around teaching about Jesus to those who perhaps didn't have the scriptures to learn from. In this instance, in one particular internet search that I did, it says that the word hospital comes from the Latin word hospitalia, which means an apartment for strangers and guests. And it would seem that many people would have at the side of their home another room specifically where guests could stay, where they could be. Remember the story of Jesus' birth? People went into wherever they were from and needed a place to stay. And all the houses, as far as Joseph and Mary were concerned, were full up. There's no room at the inn. There was no room anywhere. Now, the practice of hospitality then in the Bible is actually encouraged by those who are following Jesus. Hospitalia was a place where strangers and pilgrims were received and cared for. So at that time, it was more about hospitality than being a hospital where they would receive medical care. This is something that came in over the years. So in early Christian times, many would be encouraged to take pilgrimages to many holy places of the Middle East. And for several centuries, travellers from Western Europe would make their way into Eastern Europe to visit places that they heard about in God's Word. So many of the great hospitals can be traced to the period directly following the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD. This is when the bishops of the church were instructed to go out into every cathedral city in Christendom and start a hospital. As time went by, like I said, this medical treatment gradually played a bigger and bigger role in hospitals. From the 16th century onwards, hospitals began to take on its modern meaning as we know it today. And we're fortunate if we don't need a hospital, but aren't we glad if we do, and we can receive the care and attention that we need? How relieved someone is to get into hospital and maybe have their life saved. Well, hospitality doesn't play any lesser a part these days, as far as I'm concerned, than it did in those days in the past. Whatever you might think its origins are, hospitality has and does play an important role in our society. Nowadays, of course, as I've said, it's big business. You can even study it at university and make a career out of showing hospitality for people. You earn money through it. But originally, it seems the host was the one who gave money, who gave food, and other people received those gifts. My wife has often said that hospitality is far more than just having your friends over, or maybe some folks from church back to the house after services. In the old days of travel, we know that that was certainly so. These days, populations move en masse, don't they? Having had to run for their lives, carrying very little with them. And this theme of hospitality, like I said, has been on my mind because of a trip that I went to Croatia, and saw how people there were receiving refugees from Ukraine. Whilst there, I put my thoughts onto film, and I'd like to just share that with you now.
What you see behind me is not a Zoom background or any other kind of background. This really is the coast of Croatia, where I've been privileged to be part of a mission team to help with a church retreat. And it's a retreat that's become quite different in Croatia. This is held annually for the church in Zaratin. They come down here and have fellowship with each other as a congregation, and one or two others join them. And this year is different. This year they're joined by just over 20 refugees from the Ukraine. And it kind of has added something different to those who are used to being here. For me, of course, the whole thing is quite different. And as the title of our overall theme, where these talks from the British Bible School are concerned, as something to think about, I've really had a lot to think about. One of the lessons that we're dealing with in teaching about what holiness is taken from the life of Abraham. And in particular, it was about him and Isaac. But if you think back to when we first told about Abraham, he was told to leave his country, where I'm sure he was quite comfortable, and go to a place that the Lord would show him. It went without knowing where it was going. There's a group of people here, and there are thousands upon thousands like them that have been forced to leave their homeland. And not just now, but over the years, this has happened to many people who have been displaced because of either economic ruin or through war or whatever it might be. And many people just get up and leave. They don't know where they're going. They just hope and pray, I guess, that they're going to go somewhere that will be better than where they're leaving. What's better, of course, is relative to what you're used to and what you expect. But when you leave somewhere with only the clothes you're standing up in and a little bit of food for the journey, you really are placing your faith in God as a believer. And the folks that have come here have been well received and looked after by those who are tending to their needs, and it's going to be long term, and there's going to be more that's joining them, leaving their home, leaving the place that they know, people that they love. Many have lost already through death of the war, people they love, and they're going to try and pick up the pieces and do the best they can until they would hope they could go back again. But maybe that will never happen. Abraham was told, leave your home and go to a place, and when you get there, I'll tell you where it is. One of the themes throughout the New Testament certainly is that of hospitality. In fact, even in the Old Testament, leaders of churches are supposed to be people who are given to hospitality. And what does hospitality really mean? It really is not just about having your friends round for a coffee. It's not just about inviting your friends round for supper. It's taking in complete strangers, maybe, that are lost and have nothing. Can we only practice hospitality when people are fleeing from war-torn or economically distressed areas? Or might we even show it to our next door neighbours, to people in the town where we live? My wife says very often, hospitality isn't about just having your friends round. It's about those strangers, about the people that we don't really know, those who are in need, who really do need feeding because they have no food. Not someone to try something new on top of everything else that they have, but those who have nothing. So there's something to think about, that I've been given to think about, is that of hospitality and what it really means, especially in this situation when people who are leaving with nothing and arriving with nothing and can give you nothing can only receive.
You know, when we pay for hospitality, we expect a certain standard of service, but the gratitude is immeasurable when people who have nothing are given hospitality.
So I'm in my room in the hotel in Croatia at the retreat that I've come to, and it's quite basic but absolutely wonderful. In the summer, this is crammed full of tourists, something that the folks here have missed out on over the past couple of years and are trying to claw back some money that they've lost. Yet it's a Christian group that owns this hotel and runs it, and as Christian groups come in, they get a discount because of their faith and because of what they're trying to do. Many people I know would perhaps complain about the basic standard. The fact that you pay less as a Christian means you don't get your room cleaned every day, you make your own bed, and who wants to come on holiday and do that? And we complain about these little things sometimes, but we also have a group of people here who have come away from their homeland without anything. They just have the clothes they're standing up in. And their gratitude, their gratefulness, they don't and shouldn't have to express. They're not here by choice. But the fact that they have something from nothing and that they're surrounded by love means so much more to them than anything that could be given as far as comforts are concerned with a place like this. How grateful am I? How aware am I of the wonderful things that I have and that are mine, and how many things are just taken for granted?
What I would like for us to think about in view of all this is that if we've lost the original intent of showing hospitality, may we reclaim it. May we recover some of what was originally intended from hospitality. And it doesn't just need to be to refugees. A few people will be able to help those in need in that way. But what about in our usual everyday lives? Can we be more hospitable to friends and to neighbours? You know, it might actually serve to save someone's physical life. It would serve to be an encouragement to someone along the way. We shouldn't be offering hospitality because somebody else invited us round and we need to repay the favour. We shouldn't start to make a competition about offering better food than the person offered to us. It isn't about any of those things. People are so stressed these days and so busy and so consumed with getting by. Maybe we can be a hospital to help in that situation. Sometimes, you know, people just need someone to talk to who will listen to them. They don't even need a meal on those occasions. In 3 John and verse 8, John wrote, "Dear friend, you are being faithful to God when you care for the travelling teachers who pass through, even though they are strangers to you. They have told the church here of your loving friendship. Please continue providing for such teachers in a manner that pleases God, for they are travelling for the Lord and they accept nothing from people who are not believers. So we ourselves should support them so that we can be their partners as they teach the truth." Peter also in 1 Peter chapter 4 and verse 9 makes this statement: "Show hospitality to one another without complaining." Don't begrudge giving hospitality. Just do it because the Lord wants us to do it. In Hebrews 13 and verse 2, a passage that might be quite familiar to you, says, "Continue in brotherly love. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for by so doing some people have entertained angels without knowing it." We do not know who it is we might be helping or in what way we might be helping them when we show hospitality. When a congregation is selecting elders, one of the important characteristics is that this is someone who shows hospitality. It's such an important subject. Of all the people in the world, those who follow Jesus must be the most hospitable. In its extreme, as I said, it could actually save someone's life. It could certainly lead to the saving of a soul. It might just be the right thing at the right time for that particular individual. May we practice hospitality and be of service to one another and glorify God through it. Thank you.